Hi, my name is Professor Dr. Devaroti Haldar, and in this video session I am going to discuss about Witness Protection Scheme 2018. To understand witness protection, we need to understand the overlapping concept of victims and witnesses. Many times we may get to see that in the criminal justice system, victims are considered as the best witnesses. But in fact, victims are different from the concept of witness. Section 2WA of CRPC gives a beautiful definition of victim. It says, victim means a person who has suffered any loss or injury caused by reason of the act or omission for which the accused person has been charged, and the expression victim includes his or her guardian or legal heir. If we minutely see this particular definition, we would understand that this particular definition includes primary victim, that is the person who has undergone physical and also mental harm, loss, injury, etc., and the secondary victim or the indirect victim, that is the family members of the victim or the guardian, legal heirs, etc. of the victim who may have also undergone victimization because of the victimization of the primary or direct victim. The term witness has not been defined by CRPC, but the Witness Protection Scheme 2018 defines witness as any person who possesses information or document about any offense. As may be seen, all victims may be witnesses, that is, the best witnesses, but all witnesses may not be victims. Now, let us understand the background of Witness Protection Scheme 2018. Way back during 14th, 154th and 178th report of Law Commission of India, the Witness Protection Scheme was mentioned. Malimat Committee report on reforms of criminal justice system 2003 also recommended for witness protection. As the criminal justice system would show, most of the times the witnesses and also the victims may turn hostile because they may not get proper protection from the criminal justice system. They may be always threatened by the perpetrator or by the police system, or they may feel victimized within the criminal justice system. In the case of Zahira Habibullah Sheikh versus State of Gujarat 2004, it was observed that if the witnesses get threatened or are forced to give false evidences, it would prevent fair trial. Further, for this particular reason, in 2006, Witness Identity Protection and Witness Protection Programs 2006 was brought in, but it was just a plan and it never materialized into a solid act. However, Section 195 of Indian Penal Code does say about criminal intimidation of witnesses, which is actually a punishable act with 7 years of imprisonment. But still then, we do get to see even in today's time that witnesses never get protection, witnesses may feel threatened, witnesses and victims may feel like withdrawing themselves from the criminal justice system. However, there are some special statutes which provide witness protection or which speaks about witness protection. These statutes include Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Act 2015, Whistleblowers Protection Act, POCSO Act, that is Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act, Scheduled Caste and Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989, National Investigation Agency Act 2008. These statutes provide mechanism for protection of witnesses to a certain extent, but we still do not have any uniform focused law for witness protection in India. Let us now first understand the aims and objectives of Witness Protection Scheme 2018. As Jeremy Bentham stated, witnesses are the eyes and ears of justice. Protection to the witness is essential to gain trust for a smooth and strong prosecution. If the witnesses are not protected, they will not cooperate with the prosecution, neither they will cooperate with the defense, and it will actually result in a very bad justice delivery system. Malimath Committee report suggested that witness protection scheme may prevent witnesses from turning hostile, that means withdrawing from their statements or changing their statements. Measures may be identified to provide protection to witnesses, and this should be done through judicial activism, through amendments in the Criminal Procedure Code, in other statutes, etc., which provide witness protection to a minimum extent, or which may indicate for the protection of the witnesses. It is also necessary for bringing a solid act which will provide good protection to witnesses and also to the victims. It is a salutary duty of every witness to cooperate with the police and the prosecution. This was held in many judicial understanding, especially in the case of State of Gujarat versus Anirudh Singh. Witness Protection Scheme 2018 provides some specific definitions. However, for the purpose of this session, I have picked up some specific definitions which may be necessary for understanding witness protection scheme and also to understand its relevance with victimology. These definitions include witness, family member, in-camera proceedings, threat analysis report, offences. Now, let us see what witness protection scheme says about witness. As I have already stated in the earlier slide, witness means any person who possesses information or document about any offense. That means witness is any person who may have some information about the occurrence of any criminal activity, or who may also have some kinds of documents which will be useful for the police and also for the courts, the prosecution, etc., about understanding the commission of the offense, the causation of the commission of the offense, and the impact of the same on the victims. Section 2K defines witness protection application, which means application moved by the witness in the prescribed form before a competent authority for seeking witness protection order. As this definition says, witness may not just like that get the protection order from the courts. The witness has to file an application, and this is called as witness protection application. As the definition further suggests, it can be moved by the witness, his family member, his duly engaged counsel or IO, SHO, SDPO, prison SP, etc. concerned, and the same shall preferably be got forwarded through the prosecutor concerned. As we see this particular definition, we understand that this is actually indicating towards witness for the prosecution, and also it may be applicable to the victims who may have been considered as the best witnesses. This scheme also speaks about witness protection cell, which means a dedicated cell of the state police or the central police agencies, which is assigned with the duty to implement the witness protection order. Section 2O defines witness protection order, which means an order passed by the competent authority detailing the witness protection measures to be taken. This competent authority can be the court or can be a high-ranking senior police officer. Now, let us see what is meant by offence. Section 2H of Witness Protection Scheme defines offence as those offences which are punishable with death or life imprisonment or an imprisonment up to 7 years and above, and also offences punishable under sections 354, 354A, B, C, D and 509 of the Indian Penal Code, which means not all offences are actually coming within this particular definition. Witnesses for particular offences like offences punishable with death or life imprisonment or imprisonment up to 7 years and above, and the series of offences which may have been recognized under section 354, 354A, B, C, D, that means crimes against women, and also 509, which speaks about harming the modesty of women, may attract witness protection scheme. Witness protection scheme also has given a detailed definition of threat analysis report. This definition is stated under section 2I. It means a detailed report prepared and submitted by the head of the police in the district investigating the case with regard to the seriousness and credibility of the threat perception to the witness or his family members. It shall contain specific details about the nature of the threats by the witness or his family to their life, reputation, property, apart from analyzing the extent or persons making the threat have the intent, motive, and resources to implement the threats. It shall also categorize the threat perception apart from suggesting the specific witness protection measures which deserves to be taken in the matter. This is the definition which has been stated under section 2I of the witness protection scheme. In brief, the threat analysis report is a report that must be prepared by the police, by the head of the police in the district investigating that particular case with regard to the seriousness and credibility of the threat perception to the witness or his family. Some witnesses may come over to the police and say that I have been threatened, I have received some message, I have received some phone calls, I have received some letters, etc., threatening me or threatening my family members with dire consequences. This threat analysis report will actually categorize such kinds of messages, such kinds of phone calls, etc., and then only they will provide, or this report will actually indicate whether the witness may be categorized as a witness within the meaning of a threatened witness. Section 2C of the Witness Protection Scheme further defines concealment of identity of the witnesses, which means and includes any condition prohibiting publication or revealing in any manner, directly or indirectly, of the name, address, and other particulars which may lead to the identification of the witness during investigation, trial, and post-trial stage. This is considered as an essential element for safeguarding the witness or for protecting the witness. Because suppose, for example, when the pre-trial investigation is going on or when the trial session is going on, if the name or the address etc. of the witness is leaked out or comes out, then there are several chances that the accused person or the persons who are supporting the accused person may harm such kinds of witnesses and even witnesses within the meaning of victims. And this may motivate the victim and also the witness to turn hostile, to withdraw from the case, and thereby it will actually prevent delivery of fair justice. Now, who are the family members within the meaning of witness or who may actually get the witness protection within the meaning of witness protection scheme? Section 2D very clearly mentions that family member includes parents or guardian, spouse, live-in partner, siblings, children, grandchildren of the witness. Let me tell you again, if you see section 2C from a minute aspect, you will actually get to see that Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act actually provides concealment of identity of the witness. Even Juvenile Justice Care and Protection Act also provides such kinds of protection to the witness, whereby it is clearly stated that the name of the victim or the name of the victim's parents, guardians, etc. must not be revealed under any circumstances. POCSO Act has further added that the street's name, the name of the school, etc. should also be actually protected. Section 2F further defines in-camera proceedings, which is very essential for safeguarding the victims and also the witnesses. Section 2F clearly mentions the in-camera proceedings means proceedings wherein the competent authority or court allows only those persons who are necessary to be present while hearing and deciding the witness protection application or deposing in the court. Now, in-camera proceedings has also found its place in the CRPC, in POCSO Act, etc., whereby the victims and also the witnesses may get this right to have the trial or have the deposition, etc., in camera. Now, let us see some specific features of Witness Protection Scheme. Section 3 of the Witness Protection Scheme discusses about the categories of witnesses as per the threat perception. There are three categories. Category A, where the threat extends to life of the witness or his family members during the investigation or trial or thereafter. Category B, where the threat extends to safety, reputation or property of the witnesses or his family members but not to the life. Category C, where the threat is moderate and extends to harassment or intimidation of the witness or his family members' reputation or property during the investigation or trial or thereafter, but it may not include threat to life, threat to safety, etc. Section 7 of this Witness Protection Scheme further provides types of protection measures. The witness protection measures ordered shall be proportionate to the threat and shall be for a specific duration. It says such duration should not exceed 3 months at a time. Now, these protection measures include ensuring that witness and the accused do not come face to face during investigation or trial. It will also include monitoring of mail and telephone calls. However, we will get to see that in the Information Technology Act and also under Section 354D of the Indian Penal Code, such monitoring of mail and telephonic calls for the protection of the witness have been considered as exceptions from stalking and also exceptions from the concept of unauthorized monitoring, unauthorized access, etc. to the devices, etc. Further, the type of protection measure also includes arrangement with the telephone company to change the witness's telephone number or assign him or her an unlisted telephone number. This particular measure has existed in the Western countries since long, but in India, this particular measure is a very new concept. However, it had existed earlier, but it has not been properly mentioned in any act, statute, etc. The next protection measure or type of protection measure includes installation of security devices in the witness's home, such as security doors, CCTV, alarms, fencing, etc. The question is, who pays for such installation? It can be police, private, one kind of sharing of the like money, or it can be at the cost of the witness, but it may be helped by the police, especially when the witness may not be able to install such devices by himself or herself. However, witness protection scheme indicates that there should be fund for helping the witness in this kinds of security devices installation. Another type of protection measure includes concealment of identity of the witness by referring to him or her with a changed name or alphabet. This we can see in many judgments, order, etc., or even in the news reports, etc., where you get to see a fictitious name given to the victim or given to the witnesses as well. Next type of protection measure is providing emergency contact persons for the witnesses. This, however, has existed since long, and this is flowing from the CRPC, that is Criminal Procedure Code, and also from special statutes like the POCSO, JJ Act, etc. And the other type of protection includes close protection, regular patrolling around the witness's house, etc. This has also existed in some different kinds of forms, which is flowing from CRPC, JJ Act, POCSO, etc. Other type of witness protection measure includes temporary change of residence to a relative's house or a nearby town. This should be done under the monitoring of the police personnel. Again, other type of witness protection may include escort to and from the court and provision of the government vehicle or a state funded conveyance for the date of hearing. This is what we call, within the meaning of CRPC, as state sponsored or police sponsored presence in the court or during the deposition before the police. Holding of in-camera trial is also considered as a measure for witness protection. Further, allowing a support person to remain present during recording of the statement and deposition also would indicate type of witness protection that has been provided under this scheme. Witness protection scheme further provides usage of specially designed vulnerable witness courtrooms, which have special arrangements like live video links, one-way mirrors and screens, apart from separate passages for witnesses and the accused, with option to modify the image of face of the witness and to modify the audio feed of the witness's voice so that he or she is not identifiable. Further, this can be seen within the meaning of CRPC, and also you have seen many times that when the witness or the victim is actually deposing his or her statement, the face is marbleized or the voice is modified. These have also existed and these have flown from the special provisions from the CRPC. Ensuing expeditious recording of deposition during trial on day-to-day basis without adjournments, awarding time-to-time periodical financial aids or grants to the witness from Witness Protection Fund for the purpose of relocation, sustenance, or starting a new vocation or the profession if desired, and any other form of protection measures considered necessary are all considered as different types of witness protection measures within the meaning of witness protection scheme. Section 88 further speaks about monitoring and review. It says, once the protection order is passed, the competent authority would monitor its implementation and can review the same in terms of follow-up reports received in the matter. However, the competent authority shall review the witness protection order on a quarterly basis based on the monthly follow-up report submitted by the witness protection cell. Section 9 of this witness protection scheme speaks about protection of identity, which should be read with the other witness protection measures that I had just mentioned. Section 9 very clearly says, during the course of investigation or trial of any offence, an application for seeking identity protection can be filed in the prescribed form before the competent authority through its member secretary. That means it actually provides a prescribed format to approach the competent authority for getting the witness protection. Further, it also says, upon receipt of the application, the member secretary of the competent authority shall call for the threat analysis report. The competent authority shall examine the witness or his family members or any other person it deems fit to ascertain whether there is necessity to pass an identity protection order. That means that there is a proper check with the witness to know whether the threat analysis actually matches with the plea of the witness. Next, during the course of hearing of the application, the identity of the witness shall not be revealed to any other person which is likely to lead to the witness identification. The competent authority can thereafter dispose of the application as per material available on record, which means throughout the trial, throughout the pre-trial, etc., or throughout even during the hearing of the application, the competent authority has to be considered about the protection of the identity of the witness. Once an order for protection of identity of witness is passed by the competent authority, it shall be the responsibility of the witness protection cell of the police to ensure that identity of such witness or her family member, including name or parentage or occupation or address or digital footprints, are fully protected. Next, as long as identity of any witness is protected under an order of the competent authority, the witness protection cell shall provide details of persons who can be contacted by the witness in case of emergency. That means the witness may be given all sorts of help to protect his identity, for his security, etc., and emergency phone numbers of the nearest police station, emergency phone numbers of the protection officer, etc., must be provided to the witness, including to the family members. Now here, this term witness may also include the victims. How the change of identity may happen or may be executed. This has been discussed under Section 10 of the Witness Protection Scheme. It says, in appropriate cases where there is a request from the witness for change of identity and based on the threat analysis report, a decision can be taken for conferring a new identity to the witness by the competent authority. It should be done. Conferring new identities includes new name or profession or parentage and providing supporting documents acceptable by the government agencies. The new identities should not deprive the witness from existing educational or professional or property rights. This actually ensures that for the entire life, the witness actually is protected by virtue of this witness protection scheme, and also section 10, which says about change of identity to be done for the protection of the witness and also for the purpose of fair trial. Section 11 further discusses about relocation of the witness. It may happen that the victim and or the witness may be threatened to such an extent that the victim or the witness may not be able to stay in the same locality where he or she was earlier staying. In such case, Section 11 mentions that in appropriate cases where there is a request from the witness for relocation, and again it should be matched with the threat analysis report, a decision can be taken for relocation of the witness by the competent authority, and the competent authority must provide support to the witness who is praying for relocation. The competent authority may pass an order for witness relocation to a safer place within the state or territory of the Indian Union, keeping in view the safety, welfare and well-being of the witnesses. Which means that if the witness or the victim is relocated somewhere, in that place the victim or the witness should not be re-victimized. The expenses in this regard shall be borne by the Witness Protection Fund. Till now, we have been discussing about the witness protection, physical protection of the witness, his or her parents, guardians, siblings, children, etc. Section 13 speaks about the confidentiality and preservation of the records. It says all stakeholders, including the police, the prosecution department, court staff, lawyers from both the sides, that means from the prosecution and the defendant, shall maintain full confidentiality and shall ensure that under no circumstance any record, document or information in relation to the proceedings under this scheme shall be shared with any third person in any manner except with the trial court or appellate court, and that too on a written order. That means all sorts of records that have been generated or that actually has provided the evidences for victimization, etc., should not be disclosed to anybody, should not be leaked to anybody except the mentioned authorities, and that too under written order. All the records pertaining to the proceedings under this scheme shall be preserved till such time the related trial or appeal thereof is pending before a court of law. It also mentions that after an year of disposal of the last court proceedings, that means 1 year should be gone, the hard copy of the records can be weeded out by the competent authority after preserving the scanned soft copies of the same. However, in this case, the digital security or the cyber security must also be reviewed from time to time. However, even though witness protection scheme may promise a better understanding for the witness and also a better protection for the witness, it actually has lots of challenges. Witness protection scheme has not yet turned into full-fledged act. Some statutes, some acts like the POCSO Act or the JJ Act, or for example certain other statutes, may provide witness protection within the meaning of that particular statute or rule which is related to that particular act or statute, but still then it is only within the meaning of that particular act or statute that we get to see that the witnesses are getting some kinds of protection. But not all witnesses or the victims may get this kinds of protection. Several offences, including the cyber offences, are also not covered. Resultant, victims of cyber threat, revenge porn, etc., may not get the witness protection until and unless this particular scheme becomes a full-fledged act. No specific law has yet been developed or yet been made for the victim protection. This witness protection scheme is actually having an overlapping concept of witness and the victim. There is no specific law which will provide protection only to the victim, who can be considered as the best witness and not to any other person. So this witness protection scheme actually implies that victim and witness may get the protection, but what happens to the victim alone? That needs to be seen. There are also lack of proper coordination between the prosecution and the police. Many times we do get to hear that the police has done its duty by filing the charge sheet, but there may not be proper coordination between the prosecution and the police, and thereby the police may fail to provide those vital evidences that the prosecution may need. And also the police may also not provide the names of the essential witnesses who may probably be given protection order, or who may probably be given the protections benefits. Overburdening the judges with huge number of cases actually makes the witness protection probability very less. There are also heavy influences of colonial penal laws, which actually provides more rights to the accused person than the victim's rights.